Ticket to Ride is a popular board game of set collection and route building. Does this translate into a game that only uses cards? Ticket to Ride, the card game, uses a set collection mechanic along with a significant memory component. Let's take a look. This is how you set up Ticket to Ride, the card game. First, you want to set out the 6 Big City bonus cards. Next, you want to set out a row of 5 train cards, which will act as your draw row, plus a draw deck. Next, you want to set up a deck of ticket cards, which also are known as destination cards. Then to each player, you're going to deal out 1 train card, which is a locomotive card. This acts as a wild card in the game. Next, you're going to deal out 7 random train cards to form their deck, and this is an example of that. Next, to each player, you're going to deal out 6 of the ticket cards to each of the players. And each player then must choose at least one of these cards to keep. You can keep as many as you like beyond that. And the remaining cards you would then shuffle into the ticket deck. Now for this example, I'm going to be keeping these 3 cards. And in order to score these points, I need to get these sets of cards by the end of the game. And we'll show you how that works as we continue forward. But this deck here is what you would begin the game with as the game continues. On your turn, you have 3 different options. One option is to draw cards. Another option is to put sets of cards into your rail yard. Another option is to draw destination tickets. For our example here, we are going to be putting cards into our rail yard. In order to do this, you have to have at least 2 identical colored cards. In this example, we actually have 3 identical cards, colored cards. One of the cards is a wild card or a locomotive card, and that completes our very first turn. Whenever you add cards to your rail yard, you're never allowed to add colors that are already present in your rail yard or anyone else's rail yard. There's one exception to this, and that is if you add more cards than someone else has of a particular color. This action is called a train robbery. It causes the other person's cards to become discarded from the table. Now let's say the turn has come back to you. There is one step that you must always do before you either draw a card, put cards into your rail yard, or draw destination tickets. And that is you must take cards from any of the colors that you have out on your rail yard and flip them over onto what's called the on-the-track stack. Once those cards are flipped over onto the track stack, you cannot look at them, and you need to try to remember what those cards are for later in the game. Now that we've placed the appropriate cards onto the on-the-track stack, we're going to do the action of drawing a card. Now you have the option of drawing 2 cards actually. The only exception is if you have a locomotive card in the face-up row, in which case you can only draw the single locomotive card. In our example here, we're going to draw the yellow card and the blue card into our deck. Then what we do is we simply replace those cards from the draw deck. Now let's say the turn has come back to us again. Again, we take one of the cards from our rail yard and we place it into the on the track stack. Now I'm going to show you a different way of setting down cards that is not what I've shown you before. In this case, you're allowed to put 3 separate colored cards. It has to be exactly 3 cards, and the colors cannot be represented anywhere else in anyone else's rail yard or your own. And you also may not use any locomotive cards to complete this action. And that's one other way to add cards to your rail yard. Again, the turn has returned back to me. For this example, I must still do step 1, which is taking all of the cards, at least 1 card of each of the colors represented, putting them into the on-the-track stack. After which, I'm going to do the next step. In this case, I'm going to draw cards from the destination tickets. In this case, I draw 4 cards, and I can choose any of these that I would like. Of these, I'm looking at them, and if I feel I can't fulfill those destinations, again, if I can't fulfill them, they will count as negative points against me. If I don't feel confident about these, I don't have to take any of them if I don't want. In this case, I'm actually not going to use any of them, in which case I'm going to put them at the bottom of the deck. Now we have come to the end of the game. The draw deck has completely been exhausted. Every player has been allowed to go around once after that, at which point we're going to begin looking at the cards that we put into the on the track stack. Now, we want to compare these cards to the destination ticket cards that we have and see how many of these destination ticket cards we can fulfill with these cards here. Any of these locomotive cards can be used as any color, doesn't matter what color they were put down for originally. And any destination card that is not fulfilled gets counted as negative points. You also will notice here that I have 5 different destination cards fulfilled involving the city of Dallas, the big city of Dallas. In our example game, that means that I have more of the Dallas cards than anyone else. That means that I have 10 extra points from the Dallas Big City bonus card. That concludes how you would play the game of Ticket to Ride, the card game.